Welcome back to Omni Garage. So today's pretty exciting for me. I'm going to get a new windscreen installed on the car behind me here. So just a little bit of a backstory. This car has got the G-Technic G1 glass coating on it. Looks like this. And so when I installed this product on the glass, it was super easy to install, pretty simple. I think anyone would be able to do it. But the problem with the product is that when you're using your windscreen wipers, it can be quite juddery and can sort of leave this smeary mark on the glass. And also it doesn't respond very well to any sort of drying aid that I've used on the car. That also leaves like a haze over the top of the glass, and then it can be really hard to try and buff off. However, when you're driving at sort of 50 k's an hour and you've got sort of light drizzle on the windscreen, the water does shed off really quite nicely on the glass. But the side effects of not being able to use a good drying aid and also not responding well to the windscreen wipers has made me to want to go out and try and find a different sort of glass coating. Now, as that glass coating has slowly worn off, probably for the last 2 or 3 months, the windscreen wipers have become slightly better to use. There's not so much juddery, but it still doesn't respond well to my drying aid. So I'm in pursuit of a new product. And so I'm going to try this CarPro FlyBy30. So what I'm really interested to see if that product is going to tick the boxes for me. I want to make sure it's going to work well with the windscreen wipers. I want to make sure it works well with my drying aid, and I also want to make sure that it sheds the water when we're driving at low speeds. So I'm really excited to try that product out. But before I put that on the glass here, I wanted to get a new windscreen replaced so that I've got a nice fresh layer to start with. I'm also getting the seals around the glass also replaced because they're sort of weathering, they're starting to get cracks and not looking so good. So really excited to get that all done so that then I can start fresh with a brand new coating. Okay, so here we are turning up to Farmer Auto Village. So I guess this is kind of the same place where I bring the car to get all of its services done, so super convenient place. I guess Farmer Auto Village is like an umbrella for all the dealerships here, so real convenient because this is where the Subaru dealership is attached to. So this is also the same place we're going to get the windscreen installed. So the windscreen was already in stock, but I had to order a new seal to go around the windscreen. So I wanted the new seal because it was quite cracked and faded and weathered, and while the windscreen's out I might as well get that put in too. So had to order that in from Auckland, so both parts arrived, and there's nothing worse than turning up to a mechanic shop to get work done on your car and parts haven't arrived, they're not in stock, and they can't get the work done. So happy they're there, and let's hope today goes nice and smoothly. Here's the new vehicle for the day, a 2017 Holden Captiva. And what I like about having courtesy vehicles is that it allows you to experience a car that you necessarily wouldn't go out and buy, but it sort of gives you the day to get in it, try it, drive around town, and get a couple of thoughts about it. So yeah, here it is. Alright, so installation of the windscreen's now complete. So it took roughly sort of 3 odd hours for the guys at Farmer Auto Village to do. I don't know if that's exactly how long it took them to do it, but that's how long I had to wait as a customer. So they've installed it really nicely. The seals around the outside of the windscreen look good, so I'm real happy that I managed to get that done. It just sort of completes the look, I think, a little bit, giving it a little bit of a freshen up. So I don't think you're really going to be able to tell the difference between the new windscreen and the old windscreen, but as you can see at the top of the windscreen there is a little bit of a blue stripe across the top. I'm not overly happy about it. I don't usually like the blue stripe up there, but I mean, that's what they had, so that's what I've got, right? So I guess it is quite nice that it matches the blue car, but I'd rather it wasn't there. And so if we kind of come on the angle there, you can slightly see it. That strip's designed to sort of block the sunlight coming across the top. I don't really think it helps that much, but anyway, that's what I've got. So if we just look around the outside here, you can see the new seal around the windscreen all the way around. So I'm happy that that has been done, because that started to look a little bit ugly, started to look a little bit weathered, but that's a complete job. That's the complete install of a new windscreen. So I've taken the car out and the windscreen has just been cleaned. Now if this wasn't a brand new windscreen, what I would do is I would remove all the contaminants off the top of the windscreen, and I'd be using a Nanoskin Auto Scrub, and I would be using Nanoskin Auto Scrub, Nanoskin Glide as a lubricant for that auto scrub. And what these two products do is they sort of act like they would as if you were claying the glass, but these are sort of more of a modern version of that, and that's just to remove any baked on stuff that you would find on your windscreen. It would also help to remove a bit of I suppose road grime and maybe any other sort of tree sap or tar type contaminants that are on the top of that. Then I would then come along with Tarex, and I would just spray the windscreen down to remove the tar off the windscreen, followed by CarPro Iron-X. And although you're probably not going to find a lot of iron or tar on your windscreen, what that does is that just prevents any tar and any iron build up onto the pad for when we're going to polish the windscreen. And the reason why we're going to polish the windscreen is to remove any water spots, and also to create a nice clean surface for our coating to be applied to.
So although it's a brand new windscreen, if you can look down, and it's always really prominent on any black trim around glass, but you can see some water spotting through there. So what the polish is going to do, it's going to pull all of that out. So we're working with a really clean surface, and we're doing this more as a deep clean rather than anything, because we're not trying to polish out any scratches from glass. And if you've got existing glass with scratches in it, you need to do exactly what Glenn's done in this video and go and get your windscreen replaced. We are simply cleaning this up, so we're going to get the best bond for our coating.
So a real key point here is that before we start to polish the glass, you want to make sure you're taping up all your plastic trim and rubber seals around the glass here. Now we're going to use 3M precision tape, and that's just to prevent any polish getting into these seals. Now if you do get polish into here, it tends to turn the trim quite white, and it's a real pain to remove. So to try and remove that polish, if you do get in there, you can use a thing called Meguiar's M39 that comes in a spray bottle. It is pretty good at removing the polish out of trim, but again, you want to try and prevent it as much as you can. So that's why I recommend you tape up anything that looks like you're going to get polish on needs to be taped.
And this is brand new trim too, so the last thing you want to be doing is cleaning this up.
To start and clean up this glass, we're going to use the Rupe's 5-inch, and that's going to do the bulk of the glass, and we're going to sort of cut in the edges using the Rupe's 3-inch. Ideally, it would be nice here to have the Rupe's Nano, just to really get close to the outside of the glass. We don't have that, so this is going to hopefully do the trick for us. To set up the pad, we're going to use the Meguiar's microfiber pad here, and place it on the top of your machine to the backing plate. Now this does slightly overlap the backing plate a little bit, because this is not a Rupe's pad, it's a Meguiar's pad, but we can get pretty close. Now these pads were used for doing the glass on the car behind us. We've just finished a mega detail series on that, but you want to reactivate your fibers. Get yourself a Rupe's claw tool, and see how these fibers here, I don't know if you can see exactly, but they're all quite squished down. They're all flat. If you reactivate them using the brush part of this, you can get the fibers all to stand back up again. Fibers are all reactivated. I'm going to be using Sonax Cut Max. This is a cutting compound which would be really nice to just clean up the glass a little bit. Shake up your polish. And you want to kind of spread the polish a little bit around this pad just to start and prime it. Then you can grab the back end of your Rupe's claw tool that has a bit of a knife on here, and we're just going to butter the polish all around this pad, making sure that all those fibers have got polish covered into them. And then add a couple of pea-sized drops to the pad. So to prime this pad, I'm just going to place it on the glass, and I've got it on speed 2 on here, and I'm just going to hold it nice and still with a little bit of pressure for roughly about 30 seconds. And the idea of that is to spread that polish evenly around those microfibers.
And what you can see there is a really even distribution of the polish across the pad. So we're ready to reactivate the fibers in there again. We can apply a couple more drops and we can get to work on the windscreen.
And we're going to do this exactly the same thing for the 3-inch, and Glenn's going to cut round the outside and I'm going to do the bulk of the work in the middle.
Right, so the plan here now is to spread some product across the area of the glass that we're going to be working on a really low speed, and then on the glass you're pretty safe to crank this up to the maximum speed, work your area. We're going to do 3 to 4 passes and just have a look. The main area that we can inspect on here is just this black area where we can see a little bit of water spotting. This windscreen's brand new though, so it shouldn't take too much to
and you can push pretty hard, you can do lots of passes, you can really heat the glass up. You're not going to do too much damage to it. This is not like paint. You can be a bit rough with it, and we're just going to clean it up and hopefully remove all the water spots. Right, so we'll wipe this polish off using our microfiber removal towel, or polish removal towel, and we've got some Meguiar's surface prep here.
Oh, it smells like vinegar.
It does have a vinegary smell to it, eh? And we'll be able to see what kind of result we've got underneath. I would say most of those water spots would come out really easily.
Oh, they'll be sitting really high level in there, won't they? They will come out.
There's one right there, but I think it's on the inside.
Yeah, there's a couple of marks on the inside I can see over here, just in here. Yeah, that looks great.
Looks good.
Yeah. And we can take our tape off now too. That was like a 15-minute exercise. Took longer to tape than to polish. But this way we can get all of the polish residue that's remaining under the tape.
And now we can also start and clean up that trim a little bit, because we're also going to give that a coating. The really good thing about this tape is that it peels off really nicely and it doesn't leave behind any sticky residue on the paint or on the trim, and it then also does stick really nicely. So this is the tape you want to be using. Preparing the glass and also the rubber trim around the outside before we coat it is to give it a really thorough wipe down with IPA. So this is 90% IPA, and we do have our glass cleaning towel here. This is a Rag Company waffle weave towel. And this just helps to remove any more or any of those polishing oils that are left on the glass, and also any sort of dirt and stuff that's stuck in that plastic trim just before we coat it. So I really want to make sure that we've got a pure, clean surface so that that coating's got something really nicely to bond to. Because ultimately this is going to be the surface that we're going to be locking in for the next however long that coating is going to last for.
Alright, so we're all prepped now, ready to start our application process of CarPro FlyBy30. So what we're going to do here is we have a CarPro applicator block and one of the CarPro micro suede applicator pads, and we are going to place this on the block, and we're using a skin wedge tool here in order to get this to stay on the block. There's a nice little line, it's I guess an indent in there that we can use to tuck that in, and this way it stops our pad from sliding off. And as is good practice with any chemical, give it a bit of a, not necessarily a shake, but make sure you try and get the liquid in there all mixed around, just in case anything hasn't mixed properly or there's anything sitting at the bottom. And like most ceramic products, what we want to do is make sure we soak the pad down really thoroughly for our first section, and then what we can do is reapply smaller amounts for the next section and ongoing from there. So This bottle has a little inbuilt dropper in it, which is really handy, so you can do this one-handed. There we go. So I've applied about 4 streaks onto the pad there. I'm going to hand this over to Glenn and he can coat the first section.
Just like applying any other sort of coating that we've used in the past, you want to use this in sort of a cross-hatch type motion, and you want to stay really organized. So you want to start by going up, down, up, down, up, down. You can do pretty decent size areas.
It's quite screechy, isn't it?
It is quite screechy. And then you want to flip it around and come back the other way. And this just helps to make sure that you get nice even distribution of the coating all over the glass there. It just helps that you don't miss any spots. As this starts to dry, it sort of starts to haze over a little bit.
Yeah, we can see some hazing there, because if we come over further, hazing stops that section that we haven't done. So I guess in this environment and here in this lighting, it's actually quite easy to see where we're at. It doesn't go as cloudy as some other products.
And then you want to use your first microfiber, which is your first white towel, to remove the product. And then you want to come back with the second microfiber, and you just want to go slightly wider than where you think you applied the product, just in case you've pushed it to another section. And this just helps to ensure that you're removing all the product, and essentially what you're doing is you're kind of leveling the product off. You're not necessarily removing it, but just making sure that you haven't got any high spots left on the glass. So I just forgot to put gloves on, but I definitely recommend you put gloves on when you're coating, because the coating can sort of stick to your fingers and it can feel quite tacky, and it can last on your fingers for a couple of days before you can remove it. So definitely need to wear gloves on that one. So we're done half the windscreen. I'm now going to do the other half, but I'm going to do it in sort of a little section there and a little section there, because we're going to use slightly less product now for going forward. What's your initial impression of the product? What do you think?
It's very squeaky. I think the application time is very quick as well. You're not letting it dwell on the surface for as long as some of the other glass products we've worked with.
Well, it's very humid here today.
Yeah, it is. It has been raining.
Humidity will have an effect on how quickly the product flashes over.
What I like though is because of the quick application process, we can get through 3 coats on this, which is the recommendation is between 2 to 3 coats, isn't it? And we can do that in pretty quick time.
Pretty quick time. What I don't like about the product so far is that it's very hard to see where you've been. The other coatings that we've used in the past, they tend to flash over and they leave the surface looking really milky and really hazy. And that is a really nice point that those other products do, because it allows you to see where you've been. It allows you to see where you haven't wiped off, whereas this sort of hazes over a little bit, but it also sort of, well, I guess it hazes over a little bit, but it almost sort of, I guess, cures clear almost, which makes it super hard to find out where you've been and super hard to work out where you need to rub off. We've got 3 coatings on the glass, and so the last thing to do is really to prepare these windscreen wipers. So I'm going to clean them down with IPA, just to give them a good clean down before we then apply the CarPro Reload, which is what they recommend to coat your windscreen wiper blades with. Now these have been on the car, that's Reload there, so these have been on the car for quite some time, so you can tell, look at all the black coming off there. This looks disgusting, so pretty happy that we give these a nice good clean up.
Now, given we've got new window trim to fully complete the job, what we're going to do is use this, which is Crystal Serum Light. So this is a ceramic coating, and we'll top this with XOV4, which is a topper. Given all the other trim on the car's previously been coated in this, we may as well do this so it's completely uniform across the whole car. Just a few drops with our pipette. And then we can apply from the top here. And you'll see the richness. And we'll wipe some of that richness away because a little bit's the glossiness from it being wet right now. But you wait until we apply the Exo topper to this. It's going to keep it looking really fresh, really rich, really dark. And this just helps protect this trim as well.
So that's the richness and a little bit of gloss there, but as that sort of dries and hazes over, we will buff a little bit of that off. And yeah, it's just going to leave this looking really nice.
And I'm going all the way around the trim, and then I'll immediately go to the side I started on and buff it off. Very similar process to the glass coating. First wipe, second wipe. That trim's relatively clean too. If you look at that, we haven't got a whole lot of black residue or rubber rubbing off on there. So we've cleaned the trim really well with our IPA. First wipe with our blue towel. Really just to level off the coating. And then our second wipe is to remove anything left, and also we're just making sure it wipes across the adjacent panels, because if we've got any of this on the paint or on the glass, we won't want any high spots to cause any issues. And it's easy as that. It's about a 2-minute process to coat the trim, so you may as well do it while we're here and we've got the product. So now we need to wait 4 hours before we top our crystal serum light that we just applied with Exo V4, which is our hydrophobic top layer coating. So we'll leave it for 4 hours, come back and apply this. Same on the surface.
Right, so it's now been 4 hours since we put that coat of CSL on, and now I'm going to go over this trim now with another couple of coats of this product here called Exo. You guys have already seen it before, but I'll show you again. Put a couple of drops on here. We want to soak this sort of microfiber down. Nice little dropper on the back here. And just like you saw when we applied CSL, you just want to make sure that we don't get too much on the glass, and we just want to go over the trim like that. And it takes a couple of minutes or so, but that will just slowly haze over, and then you can then wipe it down with your first microfiber and then wipe it down again with your second microfiber. And the whole idea of doing this is that CSL is going to add the protection to the trim. It's going to stop it from cracking and weathering, and it's also going to help give a little bit of gloss and a little bit of richness to it. Then the whole idea of the Exo is to add the hydrophobicity or the hydrophilic ability of this trim, and then it's also going to help enhance the richness and the gloss a little bit more. So that's a pretty detailed video on how to put a coating on, and in particular we use the CarPro FlyBy30. So I think if you follow that video through, you'll be able to get a good result. I guess now we're just going to let the car sit in the garage out of the elements for overnight, so the next 24 hours before we go out and drive it, because you don't want it to start to rain and basically wash off that coating. You want to give that time to sit unexposed to the elements and cure for a period of time. Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see. We've got a lot of rain forecast over the next week, so once you get this out in the elements tomorrow, it'll be interesting to see. You'll be able to know straight away whether this is the right product. Yeah. So for us, for this to be a product that's going to make its way onto the shelf, it needs to basically work really well with the windscreen wipers. Yep. No chatter. We want it to make sure that it works well with our drying aid, no smudging and things like that. And also we want it to shed water at low speed. So if this product can tick the boxes, then it might be something that we consider using full time. Oh, and at the price as well, I don't think longevity comes into the equation, because we don't mind applying this 2 or 3 times a year at the cost of, $20 a bottle. Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be really, really interesting to see if it can live up to the expectation. I've got high hopes for this. Yeah, you think this could be the one? I'm hoping this is the one. It's accessible here in New Zealand. It's relatively well priced as well. So there's a couple others on the market that we could try if this one isn't the... there's plenty of them. They do range. They do get quite expensive. You're looking at $100 to $200 for a high-end one. So just with the application process, it was really easy to apply. The only thing I didn't quite like is I couldn't really see where I was applying it to. It didn't haze over like we expected with the other ones, but I mean, if this is the one, then I'm happy to live with that. It's a really easy product to try and buff off, and so we're going to have to put this into the real world now, try it out, see if it's the one. But thanks for watching, and I'm sure we'll give you some feedback on how it goes. We like to give feedback in our wash and talks and stuff like that, so stay tuned for that, and we'll let you know how we get on. Thanks for watching.